I would say the second half of the 20th century, I'm just speaking very generally. I feel that the gap between the iconic architecture and the everyday architecture has become wider and wider and wider.
Hmm.
So I think to raise the quality of the everyday architecture is important.
Right.
Does it make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it totally does.
So for example, in school, you can talk about an architect like Michael Graves versus Rem Koolhaas, and probably they'll be on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
Yeah. But I would ask a student, the everyday architecture that he or she experiences when she drives or when she commutes from home to school, all of them, what they've seen, or 90% of what they've seen, would not even be amount up to the difference between Graves and Koolhaas. It's not even at that level of quality.
Right.
So if the everyday architecture continues, the quality of everyday architecture continues to decline,
Yeah.
At the end erodes the cultural power of these iconic architecture as something that the general public cares for.
Right.
So I feel right now I'm not against exciting expressionistic architecture. I just think right now the problem is on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that comes from, I don't know, what the media is doing with the type of architecture that is produced today, meaning trying to focus on maybe only the iconic ones versus, the ones that are maybe not as sexy, but might be also challenging and interesting? Do you think it comes from the clients, maybe, who may only be the people who can afford it or have an interest into design and furthering the discussion, or maybe even from the architects, right?
No, you're absolutely right. It's a zeitgeist. It's a larger cultural engine that's moving all this,
Mm-hmm.
But I like many things that happens, there are moments where there are corrections to it. I mean, I always hope that, architecture people would realize that architecture changed the world, but doesn't change the world that maybe headlines do.
Yeah.
And it affects you more quietly, affects you, but at the same time in a much deeper way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I hope if architecture could continue to maintain that quality, to improve our lives that way, it's not competing with media. Certainly, certain architecture has a place in media, and I'm not saying that a low-income housing project needs to compete on a media level with a concert hall, and it shouldn't be. But it should provide very good spaces. It should inspire the same way that a concert hall does, I feel.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And I think your description of most architecture having a very deep impact, but it's very quiet almost. It's, it's in the background. It's very sub-layer. I think is totally accurate. And that's one reason why I think a lot of architects feel very strongly about what they do. But on the other hand, it's very difficult to convey to people that kind of impact because it's not in your face. It's not